So money is information on the amount of good that a person has done to other people, period. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert de Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. In this video, I wish to continue this line of examining why people are demonizing the rich people and hate them and things like that. The one that I've started in this video about the Dracula and, you know, the elixir of youth and stuff. I'll link it in the description, by the way. So, one other thing that is fairly prominent in today's society is the hatred towards rich people, right? And like somehow there's always like this feeling that the rich people are bad, that the money they have, they don't deserve it, etc., etc. And it's kind of normal. It's actually like normalized again, both on the far left and far right. Like pretty much everyone hates rich people because, well, again, some of the motives I've already examined in my video about the elixir of youth. So watch that if you wish. But there is another motive which is like more subtle, if you wish. Like there is like this more of a cultural trope that money is evil, you know, money is the root of all evil or something like that. And I wish to dispel it somehow. I wish to promote another understanding of money, if you wish, which would, as a side effect, sort of get rid of this hatred towards the rich, at least on a rational level. Again, emotionally, subconsciously, we're still all gonna hate the rich people because at the very least we're envious, right? Okay, so what is money? Like, why when a person possesses a lot of money is not a bad thing, at least not necessarily. And I should add a big thick asterisk here, and we'll discuss this a little bit later. But in a normal state, in a healthy society, what is money? So I would maintain, and I've made this point many times previously, that money is information. And more precisely, it's information about the good that a person has done, or a person or organization has done to other people or other organization, other entities, if you wish. So, money is information about the amount of good that a person has done to other people, essentially. Why is that the case? Well, you just look practically what the process of exchange of trade is, and by the way, a complete digression, but I really like this idea of Nietzsche, side rant incoming. So Nietzsche said that, oh, you know, you may drive an analogy. So today only rich people hunt, right? Like it's basically like sports, having a good time, go hunting, you know, even though it's banned some places on some animals, whatever. But it used to be the case that everyone had to hunt, right? Just to survive, you know, like hunter-gatherer stage of society or whatever. So Nietzsche said, well, maybe there will come a time when trade will be only, you know, for the rich people, you know, a form of entertainment, essentially. So, you know, speaking about the post-scarcity societies, this is kind of the same idea. Just an interesting idea, anyway, from Nietzsche again. So, returning on the track, so to speak, the process of trade or exchange, what does it entail? Well, one person, let's consider the simplest example, gives to other person. Of course, it might be also a service, like a work they've done, physically or mentally or however else. But they give to other person something, let's say a really cool tool that they've crafted themselves. And this other person gives the first person money for this tool or whatever, they've sold it to them. And it becomes clear that money is only a reflection of the good that this first person has done to the other person, which is they gave them this tool or whatever it is, right? So that's exactly what I mean when I'm saying that the money is information about the amount of good that a person has done to other people. So if this first person continues to make these tools or whatever else they're doing and selling it to other people, they will receive more money from these other people, all right? Like, I'm not concerned with what, like, physically the money is. It could be like pieces of gold or some precious stones or whatever. It doesn't matter. Or pieces of paper, right? It doesn't really matter. What matters is, like, the nature of the process and what it, like, signifies, right? Societally, if you wish, socially. So yeah, and let's imagine they've become so good at crafting these tools that everybody wants to have them and everybody uses them, and therefore everybody pays this person for these tools, and therefore this person becomes really rich because of that, right? Well, that's pretty much the explanation of what I've just said, of the whole process, right? So if we look at this person and we see that they have a lot of money, we can conclude pretty much that they've done a lot of good to other people, because otherwise, with a thick asterisk, they wouldn't have this money in the first place, right? And let's examine, so this is like a normal state, like a healthy society, right? In an unhealthy society, a lot of other possibilities of gaining money exist. Well, of course, you can just steal money, you can counterfeit money, you can do all the things like that, that are like purely immoral and criminal in pretty much any society. But that's this is not what we're gonna be considering here. What we're gonna be considering is stuff that is considered moral and normal in all of societies pretty much today, which is the government, of course, right? So the existence of government is considered to be natural, even though it's not. It's considered to be moral, even though it's not. It's considered to be good, even though it's not. All right? So, and what the government does, it allows you to actually receive money for not being helpful to other people, let's say, but rather being helpful to the government, or at least being a friend of the government, let's say. Let's say you have friends in the parliament or in the governmental bodies themselves, like the, executive branch, and they give you a contract for something. And even though your something is really bad and it sucks generally, it wouldn't survive competition in normal free market, you still get this contract because of your friendship with this government, and therefore you receive money basically, unjustifiably, like you didn't deserve it. You haven't actually done the good that you were paid for, all right? At least to the same amount that you've been paid for. And this is what happens. Essentially what the government does in this situation is first stage, how government functions in the first place. Well, it robs people, right? Taxation is robbery, essentially. It's a it's a robbery. They take your money or whatever possessions, your property, essentially, to the government, under the threat of violence, right? This is robbery. And then they redistribute this money, basically act as a separate entity, as a consumer, as they prefer, right? Okay, we're gonna finance this sector or this sector, we're gonna give this guy a contract, this proverbial guy that wouldn't survive on the free market, but is perfectly capable of staying rich with the help of the government, etc., etc. So this is what happens. This is only the second stage of the process, right? It all is facilitated or made possible by the robbery that the government is based upon in the first place. Okay. So this is at least one way of getting rich without doing good. Right? So in normal society, that wouldn't happen, but none of the societies are normal today. We all have this parasitic entity that basically it feeds on our blood, you know, like Dracula. It's actually an interesting point that we can utilize the same analogy that I've examined in the Elixir of Life video, Elixir of Youth rather, to the government, right? Even though the government isn't the parasite itself, it's rather a tool for parasites to use. It's sort of like, I don't know what analogy you can bring, like, yeah, something like that, like a tool for other parasites to exist on the society, because like, it's already made possible by the existence of the government in the first place. Okay. And obviously another big tool for the governments to make, let's say, unjustifiably rich people unjustifiably richer is money system in the first place. Because when we have, let's just put it bluntly, like the existence of the central bank, this is what I'm talking about. When there is, again, under the threat of violence, you are prohibited from using any other money except the money produced by the government, right? By its central bank, whatever it is. Like Bank of Japan, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, or whatever else. So this is another form of redistribution of property, essentially, the existence of central bank, because not only the government has the monopoly on violence, with the help of which it can rob you, which is called taxes, it also has the monopoly, with the help of the same violence, on production of money. And, well, what happens is that the government may, again, firstly, like, produce this money in any arbitrary amount, because again, the fractional reserve basically is not existent for central banks. They can, they're like, what is it called? I'm not sure it's a correct English translation, but like the credit giver of the last order, basically, right? So it creates money that everyone else uses, but so therefore it can create any amount of money that it wishes, right? This is kind of the situation. And what happens when the government produces money? It makes all the other money cost less, essentially. It produces inflation. Because, like, if we had a society with $100 total, and it would keep working, like producing goods and services, the price of goods and services would go down because there's a constant supply of $100, but there's more and more stuff that you can buy on this $100, I mean, available in the economy, right? So this is the normal state of the society. It's actually deflation, at the very least. But the government comes and says, hey, why wouldn't I add $100 more to this economy? And it does, and if it does so, like, you know, in a moment, like, momentarily, like, the prices of everything would go up twice, right? Roughly. It might not be exactly the same, but this is inflation. This is how it happens. And this is what makes you poorer, because let's say you had $10 previously in your pocket, so you could have bought 1/10 of the whole economy on your money. But now the government came and printed 100 more. Now you can only buy 1/20th of the country's economy, on your money. So the government has robbed you again, this other type of mechanism. And that's what happens when the government produces money. It robs people more. It already robbed them with taxes, but now it robs them with inflation as well. This is sometimes called inflation tax or inflationary tax. I'm not sure the proper English terminology again. And yeah, this is what we get. In a healthy society, again, we'd have a competition of money producers. And again, I've made this point in Archimedes' Lever of Speculation, where I say that in a free market, you have a free competition of money producers, and therefore you don't have inflation. Why? Because everyone chooses to use the money which do not, basically are not getting emitted, or at least over-emitted, like producers of money would actually compete for being for having less emission, because that would be the most reliable money that people can use. But if you have a government with monopoly, you have no competition. Monopoly in money production, I mean, you have no competition, and therefore the quality of service goes down like instantly, right? And therefore your money is worthless in the bad sense of the word, essentially, because each year they're adding almost the same amount to the economy, at this point at least, right? Yeah. Well, that's okay. There are many other things that happen, and we've discussed some of these in other videos, but I don't know. I don't really like how this new inflationary money gets malinvested, which drives economic cycles, so-called, and economic crises. Like, again, the Great Depression was produced by Federal Reserve, the crisis of 2008, 2009, the coming economic crisis, whatever it's going to be, is also going to be produced by the same mechanism, etc., etc. Plus, the governments make the rich people richer and poor people poorer, because where do this new money go? Well, to the rich people, to the bankers, first and foremost, right? Like on the stock market, essentially. And we have what we've discussed previously, the Cantillon effect, where these first receivers of money actually perceive less inflation than the last people who received the money, because it takes time for money to like sift through all the society and reach the poorest people. And therefore, when the money has already reached the poor people, all the prices have already adjusted and went up, right? But at the very beginning, when only the rich people, the bankers, received the money, the economy haven't yet experienced this new money, and therefore the prices are still lower yet, right? And therefore the bankers, the rich people, experience smaller prices with each of this new government donation, i.e. robbery of the society. And there are many other associated problems, like, again, economic cycles, to name one. All right. Yeah. And that's probably all. Like, I'll probably stop here. I know I've pretty much only repeated the stuff I've already talked about in other videos, but I wanted to emphasize this point about, well, let's go to the conclusions then. I wanted to emphasize the point that money is information on the amount of good that a person has done to other people. Or entities, like organizations and whatnot. And therefore, like, hating the rich just because they are rich is a bad strategy, because ultimately you're hating good people, right? In a normal society, I repeat, where you don't have the government that redistributes the money and makes rich people richer and poor people poorer just by virtue of rich people being rich and poor people being poor, just by the virtue of how government functions, all right? I've already made this point, by the way, and I'm going to repeat it, and I'm going to link it again for you, the table I've made, that actually, if you're like, a social justice fighter and you claim that, oh no, we need the governments to keep all these rich people in check and to reduce the inequality. Well, unfortunately for you, in this case, actually there is a negative correlation between the economic freedom and inequality. That is, the more economic freedom you have, the less inequality there is. So free societies actually tend to reduce the inequality rather than increase. Again, it's pure statistics, it's just numbers. It's not some theory, it's actually practice. There is a theory behind it, like, again, see Austrian economic school, which has like perfectly reasonable arguments on why that is the case, alright? Okay. So money is information on the amount of good that a person has done to other people, period. And by the way, speaking about inflation, I wanted to make, and I will make, a channel, I've already made actually, a channel with like short clips like Eugene the Philosopher shorts. So subscribe to that as well. I'll put the link in the description. And like the plan was to make like short clips from my older videos, because like let's face it, nobody's gonna watch like an hour-long video. So maybe I'll just make a few short clips out of that. So I'll have to rewatch like all these week-long video content I have over here, but maybe it will be a little bit of fun. I don't know. But I also maybe will start adding some new stuff there, like just random shorter clip of new content. And I have an idea for one regarding inflation right now, and by the time you'll go through the link, it will probably be already uploaded, because I'm gonna edit it simultaneously with this video. Okay. Yeah, thank you for watching. The eons are closing.